Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hutchinson City Council for Tuesday, June 24th. Trying to get ahead of myself. 2025. We'll call the meeting to order. Approve the council agenda. Any agenda additions or corrections?
Mayor and Council, we have one addition for you to consider, and it's a request for a variance on weekend noise for construction activities. And this would be under new business, and you could have it be the last item under new business.
Motion to approve with additions.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Dave to approve with the addition. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Invocation, Church of Latter-day Saints. Good evening.
Will you use that?
Yes, right up there, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the city of Hutchinson. We're grateful for the great country that we're living in, and that we are not subject to the immediately subject to the turmoil that's going on in the world. We're grateful for the state of Minnesota and the local government here in Hutchinson. We pray that Thou wouldst be with us as we make decisions that will affect the future of this city, and that we have Thy Spirit to guide us and to give us motivation and courage to do the things that we need to do to make Hutchinson the city that it can be. We pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Next is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recognitions of gifts, donations, or community service to the city. Does anybody have anything tonight? We do have a resolution underneath here. We have resolution number 15878. Resolution accepting $1,500 donation from the Hutchinson Rotary Foundation to the Parks Department for future playground expense.
You're right. Were they gonna
Someone's
present?
gonna come, but I
I
don't know.
don't see anybody. Okay, so
Motion to approve 15878.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Chad to approve that resolution. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Citizens addressing the council, just please come forward and state your name and address for the record. I did receive a letter from just read it quick here. Just wanted to drop a huge thank you to you and the city's quick response to the recent damages as a result of the storm we experienced last Thursday. We all worked all weekend cleaning and trimming trees that were damaged because of the high winds, etc. We should have been celebrating Father's Day, but we had to put that on back burner. We had to pay attention to the cleanup. I was surprised, and I'm surely appreciative that our city workers were up and around early. That's 7 a.m. on Monday to pick up the piles of branches and stumps sitting along our streets. That was great, and that was from Grace Cross. Just having a thank you to the city. I know Mike Stifter, there you are. We had a few branches down, and we have a lot of streets to go and pick up, so I think, are they gonna wrap up this?
Should have finished today, hopefully, in advance of the rain. There's some chipping still to do, but anything that folks that called in, they were hoping to complete by the end of today.
And if they just call in, they will be out to
And
pick it up.
We'll still come by. Friday was technically the deadline this Friday, but we'll still take it after that if folks are calling in, so.
All right, thank you. Approval of minutes, we have the regular meeting minutes of June 10th, 2025.
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion by Chad, second by Tim to approve those minutes. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda, this will be done with one motion unless somebody pulls something off for discussion. A is resolution number 15875, resolution to dispose of street department surplus property. B is approval of resolution number 15876, resolution to approve traffic control radar speed sign at Boulder Street Southwest and School Road Southwest. C is claims and appropriation contract payments register A. Anything anybody wants pulled off?
I make motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat, to approve consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda 2, my son has a check on there.
Actually, it's mine.
Well, I have one, too, or AJ has one.
Oh, okay.
So if you have one, AJ has one,
Sure.
so
I'll
me and
abstain.
Chad will be abstaining from the vote.
Motion to approve consent agenda 2 with Gary and Chad abstaining. Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Tim to approve consent agenda B with myself and Chad abstaining. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Alrighty, we'll skip down. We do have a public hearing at 6, but we'll skip down. Update from the Pickleball Association. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Forcier, City Council members, and all present. I'm Linda Kuhl. I live on 151 Elks Drive Southeast, Hutchinson, Minnesota, and I'm the current president of the Hutchinson Pickleball Association. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to share with you our current fundraising efforts and things we have learned since we met with you a year ago regarding the construction of 8 dedicated pickleball courts in Hutchinson. We are here tonight representing Hutchinson Pickleball Association and are requesting that this council provide us with a resolution of support and financial commitment for the construction of 8 dedicated pickleball courts on the City of Hutchinson's 5-year capital funding plan. We would like to share some facts and information that we have learned with you regarding pickleball over the year. Pickleball continues to grow in numbers and court usage in Hutchinson. As everywhere, this growth is expected to continue with the increase of multi-generational players, so more communities are building courts. This brings us back to one of our original questions. Why not Hutch? With the growth in our community, there are times when there are conflicts for playing spaces. Some examples include when the Women's Tennis League wants to play, they need a place to play, and often the high school courts are used for lessons and drills or matches. So they come to Park Elementary courts to play. The Water Carnival and Megan's Place tournaments are fantastic, and I'm proud to say that I've been a part of them. However, if you're not a tournament player, we've taken your spots to play during those tournaments as well. And not everyone wants to be a tournament player. We do inclusive play with Megan's Place friends. We have done that for the past 3 years, and we do it 3 to 4 times a summer. Finding a court didn't used to be a problem. Monica named the day, we could go, but now we use 2 to 4 courts with those players, which eliminates some places for other people to play as well. And sometimes we don't know if we'll even be able to find a court. Pickleball lessons for adults through the Parks and Rec and Community Education Department has allowed people to learn more how to play pickleball, but it also takes courts away from those who just want to play. During the school year, Phy Ed classes use the pickleball courts as well. Then there's middle school tennis practice and matches, so then that eliminates time for you to play. And I believe with the future, there will be more youth lessons and advanced player lessons, also using the court, so then just somebody who wants to just randomly play will not be able to do that either. All these things are great, and they're wonderful activities, and they all deserve a place to play. Having 8 dedicated pickleball courts could help alleviate these issues. Number 2, we have reached a milestone, having received our 501c3 nonprofit status from the IRS. Nonprofit status better enables us to get businesses and individuals to donate money and is required for some grant applications, along with the City Council approving us for funding. Number 3, currently, we have $74,222 in pledges and donations. Some people have told us they are waiting for a designated site now that Oddfellows Park has hit a roadblock, and for city approval to construct courts before pledging money toward our fundraising efforts. Until this council adds the project to the city's CIP plan and have a definitive site on which to build these 8 courts, it is very difficult to make these funding requests. Number 4, there are also grants we are missing out on until we are funded by the city. Sizable grants of up to $50,000 plus. It would be disheartening to not be able to access that money. Number 5, we have received feedback from local foundations that they want more support from the city before they donate. But they have told us to reapply after we receive your funding commitment. But we cannot do that without this council's vote to move forward and commit to constructing courts. Number 6, our committee is dedicated, smart, ambitious, and willing to proceed with gathering more pledges, donations, writing grants, and fundraising. But we question right now whether we should continue to pursue this amenity for our community. In good faith to our donors, we need to know where you are in the funding commitment process of putting plans for courts in the capital plan for Hutchinson. Number 7, we would like to reaffirm the benefits of pickleball brings to Hutchinson. Physical, mental, emotional, and social wellness for all local and surrounding area participants. Local businesses benefit from pickleball players as we eat, shop, get groceries, gas, have a beer, etc., while being in the community. As one player said to me, I can play pickleball in Litchfield and run my errands there, or I can play pickleball in Hutchinson and support the local businesses here. What do you want? Number 8, with your consent, we will be able to apply for grants, approach more businesses, individuals, and foundations for financial contributions, and do our part to bring this great amenity to the city of Hutchinson. We believe that if you build it, they will come. With continued progressive thinking, this amenity can benefit our community members and businesses for years to come. We are asking for your financial support now so we can proceed with this worthy project. We would appreciate your response within the next few weeks so we can plan accordingly. Together, we can build this amenity in Hutchinson and reap the benefits for a healthy, prosperous community. At this time, if you have any questions or directives, we are happy to hear and address them.
Do you have any questions for Linda?
So you said you've got about $74,000 towards a $600,000 project. That's the numbers that we've heard.
That's what we have right now.
The hard part is, how many are taxpayers in Hutch?
I don't know.
That's a concern, because we have lots of expenses in town, and I'm not negative on this. I am wondering where we're supposed to get this money from. You know, since I've been on the council, which is going on 5 years, one of my pet things has been a splash pad for kids. It keeps getting pushed back, keeps getting pushed back. It benefits kids. I again, I'm not against this at all. I'm disappointed in the amount of money that, and I get it where you're saying we need to commit. That's kind of a horse apiece. If you're committing that amount, that's not nearly as much as some of the other projects that have come forward. And my personal thing is, I want it on the CIP. And this is again personal. I feel that you guys want this done now. I get it. You do have 8 courts. What I heard you say was there's a conflict with the 2 tournaments, Megan's Place and the other one. How long are those tournaments? A weekend?
Those aren't the only conflicts. I mean,
I know that. I know. I'm just stating. I'm trying to come back with what you said. And there seems like a lot of conflicts from kids needing it for training for the high school. I get that, but I would say most of you are retired and can work around the high school kids' schedule.
we are, but there are a lot more young people going. I went there last night and the courts were full, and it's people I'd never seen before. There's more young people that are coming to play all the time.
And they're getting there and they're playing.
Yeah?
And maybe some can't. It's not a hard no for me whatsoever, but I do have a lot of concerns and questions. You know, I'll be perfectly honest. I would vote for something for the kids before something for this group. And I'm not against your group at all. I don't, you know, you can take it that way, but I'm not at all. It's just, it's tough when you're sitting back here and you've got X amount of dollars and you've got to pay for so many things. And you kind of look at wants and needs, and we want to provide as much as we can. But then on the same hand, you've got people, our median income in Hutchinson per household is $71,400. That's for 2 people. That's for 2 people for a household. So maybe a $10 tax increase doesn't sound like much to you. I can probably handle that. I want a fixed income now, I want you to know. Enjoying it. But, you know, that does come into play where we get calls from those people going, holy buckets, you know. We don't need this. We had to replace the fire ladder truck at a huge cost. And the people that showed up were ones that, why do we need this? You know, so that's what I mean. I hope you can hear my point. And I'm not saying no to this. That's everybody knows. But I wanted to give you back mine.
Yeah, I
appreciate
understand that. I understand that. I just want you to understand that what we've run into roadblocks is the feedback we've got from foundations in town, that they want to know, well, one, when we thought we had Oddfellows Park and then that hit a road bump, then that made getting donations harder, because it's like, well, they'd ask us, well, where are you going to build? I don't know. You know, you sound really dumb. And so that was hard. But then they also want to know, is the city committed to this? If they are, then they're willing to give the money. And like I said, there's grants out there, but a lot of the grants want to know, are you funded by the city? So there's money, and it isn't all going to be taxpayer money. There's money to access, but we need you guys. That's how we're going to get that money.
I think I have a couple questions, and one is for the city administrator, Matt. We had talked last meeting a little bit about going through the CIP and going through what our 5-year plan is, because it kind of rotates daily. One day it's splash pad, next day it's this. Things kind of pop up, and I think I mentioned after the meeting kind of that we should actually set and start asking people in the community, what would you? I mean, would you rather have a splash pad? Would you rather have this? And I do that quite a bit. And what that helps is if we can set that 5-year plan based on what the community considers needs and wants. Now we have to take the needs first. The fire truck, we have to, public safety becomes something which is our major responsibility here. I'll ask Lynn, Parks and Rec, you know, has the city designated a new park or a place for this to exist?
With Oddfellows kind of falling through, we've looked at some different sites, and we are unfortunately running out of a lot of green space within our parks department. But we have looked at the old Senex site where it was a splash pad location too, and those could coincide together.
Because I'm understanding the city Parks and Rec would basically be providing the land or the space to do that, correct?
Well, yeah, but the courts would be a city asset. It'd be a part of our park system.
Correct. So,
Yep.
but if we laid that out in a plan and said, okay, this land is available, you know, you said you lost Oddfellows Park, which people say, where are you going to put it now? I think the first thing we'd have to discuss is have a plan for where it's going to go, because that's going to help you. And I think it would be, you know, for Parks and Rec to say, this is committed to pickleball if we can get the funding and it can make the 5-year plan. So we're moving forward so you can at least say to the people, yes, it's going to be here when we have fully funding or when we, because it's gonna help your 501c3.
Yeah.
I mean, you might run into somebody, and believe me, it's happened before, who says, you know what, I'll donate $500,000 to the project and it's paid for. And you can start building because Parks and Rec has the land designated for it. But it also, when you go back into somebody and say, it's designated for this park and that land has already been committed to this project. That's a little easier to move forward with because we're not committing funds to it, we're considering the spot. As for the funds, I still think we as a council need to, and I think that's upcoming, where we,
I mean, just for the council, for the public, you know, this is the perfect time to come and address the council because we started the budget process last month. And the budget process goes from now until December. So everything that we're talking about, we're right entering that phase of our calendar to discuss the budget. And so to answer the questions, we can give answers in the next couple of months if the council chooses to do so.
well, and that's what it comes down to, is the council listening to what our community is saying is important to them. Because I've never had anybody from a splash pad come up here and say, we want a splash pad. I see organizations come up who are diligently trying to get something done. And these things keep popping up. I mean, I tell people all the time, I'd love to have Hutchinson have a free golf course. But is it gonna happen? Probably not. You know, that's a little bit bigger investment. But the whole point of the matter is I'm one of those people who, you know, it's the same with the chicken thing. The community wanted it. I got one phone call against and a letter against and 600 people saying we wanted it. And so I see pickleball right now coming forward and putting the energy into this. And it's the only group I see putting energy into a Parks and Recreation facility. So I tend to lean towards the people who say, you know what, I have 50 voices tell me one thing and I have 0 voices telling me another. I'm gonna listen to the 50, because quite frankly, that's what we represent as the community, to do what they want us, you know. And yes, I agree with Pat. It's just hard because it's trying to pull money out of sometimes, you know, hey, you know, you have the unemployed person or the person on a fixed income and it's, do you want prescription drugs or do you want to go play pickleball? So we have that to look at, but I think as we do the 5-year plan, you know, we've heard from pickleball, then the pickleball group, and it kind of moves up into my world a little bit over a splash pad. And sorry, I don't think kids, I look at funding. We've got people motivated to get the funding. So as we do the strategic planning, in that 5-year plan, and we look at, okay, you're bringing in this much funding in advance, you have this many years to do it. I mean, it could be 2 years out, it could be whatever, but I think we have to get through that hurdle of what we have to pay for, and then we start adding on to that 5-year plan.
Could I just add one thing?
Yes.
You know, I don't know that all this money has to come from tax dollars. If we can get the city approval, we can get foundation money, we can get grant money. Maybe it isn't going to be a lot of tax money. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying we need to think about that too, because there are chances out there for money.
I think what we have to do is get a plan in place where they're gonna be built. And
And I think once you have that, and you have a plan in place, and we've approved the plan, and that's a future site for pickleball, that helps you out, because you're going out and saying, listen, the city's already designated a spot for it. We have a plan designed for it. This is what it's gonna cost. We'd like a donation towards it, and most people will do that.
It was a lot easier when we thought we were going to Oddfellows Park than when that fell through. Then people started to shy away about, because we didn't have any solid thing to tell them.
Because once we know a site, the other things that come into play is, are we gonna have extra costs because we have to put in parking? Or, you know, these kind of things. So, you know, that project can go at one site and cost you $500,000, and you go to another site where you have to put parking and handicap parking and lights up and all that other thing, and now we're talking $1 million project. So I think if we even had a sketch plan of it in.
We do
have one. The city invested some money in a plan, it's just for a specific location. So council has to be okay with spending some dollars to get that plan updated into a different location. It will cost some money to do so.
We've had plans to look at
Yeah.
it.
And one other thing I'd like to say is, you know, we have a lot of activities for kids. I know because I run my grandkids around all day long. There's a lot of activities for kids. I don't know what the ratio of kids to retired adults or older adults is in town. I don't know that. But I do know that my daughter has heard at her work that, hey, what are you doing for our age people in Hutchinson? You know, this could be a big draw that we could draw so many people here and we could serve the older, whatever you want to call population of Hutchinson as well. You know, so I just wanted to add that. And I do have this packet that I have packets for you so you can review it when you're having your meetings, and my number's on there so you can call me if you have questions or whatever. You have any other questions that you want?
Have you thought beyond an 8-court pickleball court? I mean, facility? Have you thought beyond that?
No. It's hard enough to get the money for an 8-court facility. I mean, unless you run into a bunch of money you want to spend, it'd be great.
Don't get very far, but you don't think that something that was multi-purpose would be a better fit
That's what
within
we currently
the
have.
community?
That's currently,
That's what we currently have is a multi-purpose facility because it's straight for both tennis and pickleball right now.
So that's what you call multi-purpose?
That's what you would call.
I'm thinking more like
Yeah.
a building that would house pickleball, house.
You're talking a lot of money then.
Well, that's why I'm asking. You thought beyond.
We thought about that right away and we said, no, we're just going to do outdoor courts because it would cost millions of dollars to get
Well, if you had a
an indoor.
multi-purpose building for that, you could play indoors in the wintertime where you can't play here in the wintertime.
We do at the fairgrounds. It's
Yeah.
not the best, but we do, or at the rec center, we play there too.
So is there enough, you can't do that now. You said tonight that the courts were full on Park Elementary.
Last night, yeah.
As last night.
More nights now than ever used to be. Last summer, you could have drove by at night and you wouldn't have seen people, but
Yeah.
you do. I go there just randomly sometimes at the spur of the moment. It's like, oh my gosh, there's all these people here.
Dave, I think your biggest challenge is a $600,000 outdoor court compared to $6 million
Well,
indoor court.
Okay.
You gotta have
So
somebody
do you-
run it, too.
You agree that there's
Yeah.
plenty of indoor courts? And times are good?
What's that?
Indoor courts and times are good?
Are there enough? Is that what you're asking?
No.
You got enough indoor courts?
No, I
In
can't see
the rec
it.
center and the fairground?
No,
No.
the fair, whoops, they're adequate at best.
They aren't.
I'm just asking.
The indoor facilities aren't really, the court surfaces isn't built for pickleball. They're sticky in the fairgrounds, you can't see the lines. You're playing with a basketball line, a tennis line, and a pickleball line. And of course, we are super grateful to have the opportunity to go in and play in those facilities, but there are some people that won't go in there because you can get hurt. The rec center floor is super sticky.
Okay, I just asking.
Yeah.
We're grateful though.
I mean, we looked around when we were trying to find things, you know, like some of those, some car place now on Highway 7, and it was for sale, and I thought, oh, maybe that, but then the reality came in about how much money it would be in.
Like I said, I think for the public, the biggest thing is we're in the middle of the budget season right now. So I would encourage to get your feedback to the council. Council, obviously, if you have questions, you continue to raise them. Staff can look at sites. We can obviously have this as a part of the budget discussion, and hopefully get a better answer to you in the upcoming months.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Well, I thought maybe Linda's pickleball.
Can I just maybe just a couple little.
Sure.
So I think.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Dave Radloff. I live at 16663 673rd Avenue. I come with a little different perspective. I actually have an interesting example. I used to play a lot of pickup basketball. And I went all the time. I worked my work schedule around it because it was something I enjoyed. And it was very healthy for me. Pickleball is very similar. I still work. I work my schedule around it because I'm motivated to go be healthy because it's fun, it's social, and I really enjoy it. Another interesting thing though is I played a lot of pickup basketball when I was about 30 to 40, and the high school kids would come, and I'd meet the high school kids. I met Chad, played pickup basketball.
Is where we met.
I was at a finance event downtown last Monday. A guy named Nate Pearson, who's a pretty successful banker in town, comes across the room to chase me down because I met Nate playing pickup basketball. And there's intergenerational stuff that goes on in this big town when you have those types of activities. And Chad showed up because he wanted to, because it was fun. Nate showed up.
And you beat
'cause-
them, right?
Never.
We had some epic battles.
Epic battles.
Epic.
I had to use creativity against these young guys. But last Wednesday, 3 high school kids are there playing with us. Ashton, I don't remember the other 2 guys. Linda, these guys probably know their name. Zach, I never knew Zach. Zach's probably in his 20s. He claims he works, we're not sure. But it is not just an old person's thing, and it is something that brings people in this community together beyond just the activity. But we're all working our butts off to find time to play because it's so much fun. And there are activities. I've been a part of a Blue Zone thing, which is, well, how do we get people to eat healthy? How do we get people to exercise? People are working their butts off to try and find ways to get out and be healthy with this sport. And I think it's going to continue. So it is an older person's thing, but it's also something that draws you in to do something that's really healthy, and it's also multi-generational, and it helps this community be stronger. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Oh, we got public hearing now.
You guys are all gonna wanna stick around for the hearing, because they are fun.
When the fun starts, come on. Purpose, use of revolving SCPD funds for the Hutchinson Downtown Housing Rehabilitation Program.
Sorry, Judy, they weren't all here for your public hearing.
So, my name is Judy Fleming from.
Judy, Mike?
Judy Fleming, Hutchinson Eatery, and I'm going to talk to you about proposed use for revolving SCDP funds for Hutchinson downtown housing. So deed requires us to have a public hearing, and these are the things that they want us to discuss today. So we need to have citizen input, identifying community development and housing needs, and that address needs of the low income and very low income persons. We'll talk about the proposed small cities activities and the benefiting locations, the overall cost of the project, and the financing. Implementation schedule, the staff's past performance on carrying out projects like this, and some compliance on historic requirements. So, guys have not seen me too long ago when we talked about this already, so we'll just do a little recap. Some of the needs, we're following the studies that the city and the HRA have paid for, and that is the 22 comprehensive housing needs by Maxville. That is showing, obviously, that we need housing of every type, just like other communities. The data is on the side there. You guys got copies of that. And as I told you a couple months ago about our vacancy rate still being below the norm, the 5%. So one of the interesting things that Maxville talks about is the natural occurring affordable housing, and that is a big target key term that you'll hear a lot in housing now. And it provides a vast majority of the affordable housing for renters in our community, and so they recommend to continue doing that because dollar for dollar, the preservation of these units is much better versus the cost to do new construction, even with tax credits going into projects. And also with the new 24 downtown plan, we talk they talked about that the city can support significant portions of the high-density residential demand, and during all of the public hearings and community engagement, people expressed that they want housing options, affordable housing options downtown. And one of the things that we heard emphasized at another community housing event is owner-occupied rehab. It is important to maintain the existing home values of our homes in town and to promote home equity for our citizens. So that's the housing needs. Any other comments or anything on that you want to talk about? Okay. So the city received, so in the past, we've applied to deed for small cities funds. And we've been very lucky and we've gotten quite a few different grants. We set them up like what you'll be seeing, what we're continuing to set up as, where if they live in their house for owner occupied, they move in a certain time, they have to pay back. Or with the rental, if they don't meet the affordability criteria, they have to pay it back. The city had some funds that needed to be paid back for one of those reasons. And in 2019, with our last grant that we got from DEED, the city had to approve a reuse plan. And so we have this pot of money that we need to reuse in the same activity as like what we got our grant from. So it is following the recommendation of the 22 Maxfield housing study and our 24 downtown plan. We're recommending the downtown housing rehab project, which would include the first phase of a rental rehab for downtown rental apartments, and phase 2, an owner occupied. As I stated before, downtown apartments are definitely known. We want to preserve that housing stock down there, and the downtown homes, owner-occupied homes, are the oldest in our community too. So this is the proposed target area. It's coming from the downtown plan. We started with the rental already. In March, we sent out 72 letters to rental property owners of apartments that are 4 units or less because of the pot of money we have. And we had interest. I was so excited. I was telling Matt every day, yay! We found one that really feels it is meeting all of the qualifications, which are, and they're not easy, let me tell you. So these are the income limits. It's 80% of the area median income. So the household, that's the tenants in the apartment, have to have an income below that. But the hard part is this next one, is the rental limits. And that is, we count the utilities that the tenant pays in there too. So it's the rent plus the utilities have to be below these rent limits. And it's hard unless it's a smaller apartment complex. And this is the structure. So we did find that one that preliminary looks like it'll meet that. This is the structure. It's the same as what we've had to have in the past that DEED recommends. For rental, it is the 70% of the rehab costs up to, they allow us to give $12,500 per unit. So that means there's a 30% owner match. Once again, the wonderful thing with the rental though is 20% is forgiven each year for the next 5 years if they meet the affordability criteria. And they're not going to want to not get it repaid, so they're really good at it, the landlords. We need to show you an example. So a $71,500 project for 4-unit rehab, we would cover the 70% up to that $12,500 each, so that'd be $50,000. And then the owner would have to contribute the $21,500 to the project. Phase 2. So target area, same target area. We'll send out letters. This is what we've done in the past when we've applied for the grant. So it's basically the same process. We send out a letter to the homeowners in this area, so they know, they can let us know if they're interested. They have to be also the 80% area median income. That's what I showed on the other one. It's the same 70-30, but for homeowners, the max for a home is $24,999. Federal regulations trigger after that if we put more money into it. The structure of the loan, deferred loan, is similar except for it is stretched out for the 10 years. So it's zero interest deferred, 10% each year forgiven. The example is like a $36,000 project. We put in the max of the 24.9, which is close to the 70%, and then they'd have to do the 11.1 for the 30%. So this is the money that we have. The first phase is our goal is the 4 units, 12.5 for each, so a $50,000 project that we're contributing, and then the owner match piece. The next phase is the owner occupied. If we give the max $24,999, that's 7 units that we can help, plus then their 30%. So the total project would be the $355,167.
And Judy, what's the current balance that we have in this account that can be used?
It's
$355?
It's right around that.
Okay.
Yep. Andy gave me the numbers, so it's right around that. We have one of the things, just so you know, it's health and safety items that we usually do, and they're big target items. Like the roof is the big one, and then it goes for windows, siding, mechanical, electrical, any health and safety and code issues we use the funding for. Implementation schedule. First step, right here, you guys. Next step, we'll be working on getting all of the documents that we need to deed. We're in the middle of the environmental review process, and hopefully we'll be getting that clearance shortly. In July, we also will be accepting the application, and they'll have to send out information to their tenants. We'll do inspections, and get a bid document. July, August, hoping to get it out to bid. It's not a lot of funds, so it's a smaller project, so it should go pretty fast. And also, I was hoping to start mailing out in July too for that second phase to the homeowners. Hopefully the construction will be done by October, and you do get to see me again, because we do have to do another public hearing to give you an update on everything. But we're hoping to spend all of this money for both phases by the end of 2026. Experience. Well, the HRA has been doing these small cities programs for many years, but I have to put 26 because I'm the oldest employee right now. So, and I have done all of those coordinator positions, and John is, my technician, is doing trainings and willing to do all the work to learn all these different positions too. And the other thing that I think I really, really like is we work with the building department, so we'll be paying them to do our inspections for these projects too. So it really feels way more streamlined having them involved from step one to the end during these construction projects. The last little piece, because they made me tell you, we do have to, during the environmental review process, send to the state and the county historical society. So if any of these so we send them the target area, and then once we specifically get a site, then we send that directly to them, and if they identify them as a historic property, we will follow the regulations. That's it. Any questions?
Any questions or comments from the council for Judy?
Not really. The ones that go to homeowners within that area, is that the same, I didn't quite catch, is it the same income level or that was shown up there?
8% area median income.
Anything else, Judy?
How many homes would you anticipate falling into that? I mean,
Well, we only have funding for 7.
7.
That's max, you know, so I don't think we can find
I
something.
mean, I've known people in the past who have taken advantage of this for their home,
Yep.
and it's been very successful for that. So I guess in going on that, I like the idea of this because we have to maintain housing in our community, so.
The criteria weeds a lot out. If you, like you said, you had 7 on the one home and 1 met all the criteria.
Yeah,
That's tough.
especially when they throw the utility cost in there.
That's the hard
That
part.
really hurts,
It does.
It's too bad.
yeah. Anything else for Judy?
You should open it up for public comment.
We'll open it up for public comment. Motion to
I'll
close.
close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by
Sorry.
Chad, second by
Second. Yep.
Tim. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both say nay. Motion carries. We got a resolution underneath there, resolution number 15879.
I'll make a motion to approve that resolution.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve the resolution. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say nay. Motion carries. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we're gonna go down to new business, stormwater, wastewater, and community resiliency project final.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to just take a few moments to introduce Emily Jennings. Emily is joining us tonight from SCH. She had a hand in this project as she did in the last year's project. You'll remember about this time last year, we were reporting out on the north side of this study. And we again received another grant, and we are in the process of closing that out. And the requirement of that is 2 things we did tonight. One was a public open house, and then 2 followed by council's review and action. So Emily's got a short presentation she's going to do, and Emily, you can come up here. We'll cover kind of the highlights of it. You have the report in your packet. You maybe had a chance to at least read the executive summary portion of it, but this again does a good job of outlining several projects for our consideration over the next few years. So Emily, I'll let you take it away.
Click and help. Good evening, Council and Mayor. Thank you for having me here. My name is Emily Jennings. I'm a Water Resources Engineer with SCH. I was the project manager for the Stormwater Resiliency Assessment and Action Plan, the south side of the city. I also did manage the project for the north side of the city, but I wasn't able to be here last year when it was presented. So some quick background. So as a reminder, this project received grant funding through the MPCA's planning grants for stormwater, wastewater, and community resilience. So I've got a couple photos up here basically just showing one of the reasons why Hutchinson was a great candidate for this grant. As you can kind of see, some street flooding in maybe extents that we would hope not to see. So this particular grant is for issues like this. Essentially, municipalities, counties, or cities, people who experience flooding and are looking to increase citywide resilience are candidates for this grant. Some stats here about the grant program, but 90% is funded, 90% was able to be funded by the MPCA, 10% was a local match, and projects that were favored include those that address localized flooding, areas that affected vulnerable populations, projects that address the impacts of climate change, and then provided like clear actionable work plans. So again, we kind of already talked about the north, but just a reminder, we did study the north half of the city. That was completed in May of 2024. It had a similar scope and set of deliverables. So specifically talking about the South Action Plan here, so the objective was to prepare a comprehensive stormwater model and resiliency plan that identified areas of localized flooding, took into consideration damage potential, community vulnerability, and then developed projects to try to mitigate some of those flooding issues. So how we did that was by doing a lot of data collection, data management, developing a watershed-wide, we call it H&H model, hydraulics and hydrology, apply some future rainfall trend modeling, and then look into areas where we could find solutions. So the grant requested amount was just over $81,000. The city had a greater amount of matching funds, which I think made this project really favorable to the MPCA and helped them secure those grant funds. So the total project was just over $135,000. So talking a little bit about the data collection and data management. So this piece is really important because when we build any type of stormwater model, we need information to put into the model to tell it what exactly exists in the city. So we needed to create a database, something that we could, start to build this model. And we did this by, the city already houses a lot of data, so we prepared what we call the gap analysis. Basically, how can we take the city's data that they already have, kind of figure out how we need to manipulate that data to build the model. We actually delivered that gap analysis to the city, and city staff were huge project partners in helping us build this database for the model. This image here, I know the scale is going to be really hard to see, so don't feel like you need to take a whole lot away from them, but essentially what you probably have a hard time seeing here is that there's multiple pipes that kind of span the south part of the city, right? And those are all pipes and information that would have been represented in the model we built. So when I'm talking about a model, what I really mean is technically we call it a 1D, 2D XP Swim model version 2024. So what XP Swim is the brand type of model, right? And what 1D, 2D means is that we modeled it in one-dimensional, right? We basically connected all the pipes together, but then in 2D is we took the topographic surface of the city and we snapped it to those pipes. Sorry, that was kind of loud. And we're able to just more efficiently mimic flow patterns that way because the model's smart enough to basically realize when it rains, water flows downhill, right? So it's able to kind of route that using the topographic surface. But anytime we build a computer model, or it's only a computer model, it's only as good as the information that's in it. So we do a task called model calibration, and that helps us improve the accuracy of the model. And basically what we mean by calibration is, so forward in this sec, we take evidence of real events that have happened and we try to recreate them. So you think of, there's a lot of different factors in a model or knobs you can turn or buttons you can push, right, to change things. And if we can recreate with evidence and historical rainfall information, and kind of tweak our model, calibrate it to these events, we feel pretty good that we can sort of predict what's to come based on that data. So city staff was also very involved in this process, helping us calibrate the model as, they're the people that are out there during these events and witnessing these things. Calibrating this model was actually a little tough. And what we kind of landed on is we didn't want to turn the dial, if you will, back too far. So we do actually think that this model is slightly over predicting rainfall amounts, but we feel like that's a more conservative approach than having it under predict anything. And we didn't want to change any of the factors basically too much. And then again, the big takeaway I want you to take from these images is, when we're talking about storm events, 2-year, 10-year, 100-year, right? Rainfall is increasing for each event. So you can sort of see the colors kind of build across the screen here. So this is what we landed on with the calibrated model. So this is predicting what the inundation mapping is going to look like for a 2-year, 10-year, 100-year event. We see a lot of those purple and blue colors for a 100-year event. That's to be expected, right? That's a lot of rain. And we see less of it in a 2-year. And then again, this is a resiliency grant, so we took a climate adjusted scenario for all those, and we took that into consideration just to be more proactive. Where rainfall events are changing, we're seeing maybe more intense storms than ever before. So this is just adding in some additional resiliency. So you can kind of see there's not like major differences between these two images, but you can kind of see some standout areas where you see like a little bit larger extents of flooding or a little bit deeper of water. So moving into the results. So the results, or kind of the proposed improvements portion of this study, was to develop up to 7 conceptual implementation projects to alleviate areas of localized flooding. So we actually landed on 8. We got a bonus one in there. I won't read through all of these in total, but essentially, you know, what is great about these models is it's able to really let us look at it on a watershed-wide scale. So for example, project 1 was to increase pipe capacity in certain areas. So we're able to do that in the model and see the cause and effect, because sometimes if you take a bunch of flooding and you get rid of it, it's got to go somewhere, and sometimes that goes to a whole new spot and causes a whole new set of flooding. So we're able to kind of see that in the model to help make sure that we're actually coming up with a real solution and not just like creating a new problem. So of those 8 projects that we looked at, 1 came back as a high priority. It had some really good results. Another 5 we had at medium, seeing like we saw benefit from them, and then a couple did come back low. We just didn't quite see the change in flooding that we were hoping, but I have this little green arrow in there. One of them actually came back as a possible contender for maybe not so much of a flood or resiliency type improvement, but possibly a water quality improvement if the city is interested in pursuing that in the future. So now I have those 6 high and medium priority ones kind of outlined here. So what you're going to see on the next several set of slides and images is you see the zoomed in version of that inundation mapping, and then you see this kind of red area. So the red area is the change in flooding extents. So the red would be what we see in the existing conditions, and then the color scale, the kind of teal and purple, is with the project. So you can see here, this was our high priority project, the one that we'd recommend. That's a pretty big difference in flooding extents. So this particular project looked at expanding the ponding southwest of Century Avenue Southeast and Sherwood Street, and increasing the storm sewer capacity to the outfall. So this project significantly reduced the peak flooding depths and extents in not only roadways, but the residential areas. So this next project, project 1, another one where we looked at increasing pipe capacity. So we saw a decent reduction in street flooding for this project, and the reason why this one fell for a medium priority, obviously not the same removal of extents as the previous project, but this one is one that could possibly be completed with a roadway reconstruction project, so you can kind of 2 birds, 1 stone whenever that project makes it into the schedule. Next project was expanding the existing pond on Echo Drive Southeast. So again, we saw a good reduction in street flooding and flooding in the property west of the pond expansion, and again, this is one that could possibly make its way into another roadway or utility reconstruction project. Project number 6, this is where we looked at increasing pipe capacity from Glinda Lane southwest to the river. So again, we saw a good reduction in peak flood depths and extents. And I think a notable one here is we saw a reduction in building footprints within the flood extent. So flooding happens, it's never ideal, but we like to see it flood where there's not structures or other buildings. So that's always something that we try to prioritize is, okay, well, if it's gonna flood, can we at least keep it out of the properties, the structure properties. So project 7 was cleaning the ditch from Airport Road Southwest to kind of restore the normal water level in the Ravenwood Pond. So this particular project, we were able to reduce the normal water level, improve storage and conveyance. This one's definitely going to need some more detailed design just to find the perfect balance for that, but we do think that there's an opportunity there. And I think this is our last one, project 8. We looked at increasing the pipe capacity to Somerset Pond. So we saw a reduction in street flooding upstream. So you can see how kind of taking care of some things downstream really alleviated some upstream problems. But there was really limited benefit downstream. So something to maybe study further. Another project that could possibly be kind of done in conjunction with a roadway reconstruction or other utility project. We had a couple other recommendations in our findings, so just a reminder here to continue to inspect and maintain the existing stormwater infrastructure, keep catch basins and sewer lines clear of debris, sediment, or other obstructions. Consider studying and adjusting stormwater utility rates and set aside additional financial resources necessary for project implementation, maintenance, or other needs. And then consider exploring Project 4 for a water quality based project should the city be in need of some water quality credits or other efforts. So that, do you have any questions?
A lot of info.
I see that you had that one member I talked to you about Echo Drive there.
Area behind Walgreens.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, the apartment house there, they said that their water came up like this few inches from the back door, so with the last big rain event we had, so.
Yeah, and something to remember too is, you know, our stormwater infrastructure is only so big, right? So there's always going to be a rainfall that it's just not sized for, and that's pretty normal. So what, you know, we know it's going to flood, but ideally, right, like our system would be set up in such a way that the flooding inundation or duration of inundation isn't like days and days and days, right? Like it can recede pretty quickly and people can kind of do what they need to do to clean up and move on.
Well, I was gonna bring it up at the end of the meeting, I had it written down here, but, you know, in the wintertime, I say keep the fire hydrants clear. Now, in the summertime, keep the catch basins clear, cause that helps a lot.
Yeah, and in spring even too, like right when you're like somewhere in between snow and not snow, that's when we start to see the runoff, and if you ever, there's like an early rain, that's always a really critical time. But yeah, keep the catch basins clean.
And I'll just say and I know the council knows this, but the public, and there's probably not a ton that are watching this, but I think this is the perfect example of how we determine which projects get done in town. It's not, as the council can tell, the technical work that went into this. It's not flipping a coin going, okay, we're gonna do this part of town now. There's rationale behind the streets that we pick, the storm systems that we improve, and this is one part of a bigger project in trying to keep the community, I guess, up to date with the needs of climate and rain. And I think we all remember, was it 2 weeks ago with that heavy rain, what that did to certain streets. Like you said, there's sometimes when you get that much rain, there's not a whole lot you can do. What we try to do is alleviate how long those headaches may be in town. So,
Yeah, how long did it take to get the southwest pond done by the rec center?
Quite a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, and we had pushback against that, but now that it's in there, it.
I don't think people would want to fill that one in now.
No,
Yeah.
that performs very well. So. Anything else for Emily?
we should have an action to accept the report.
I'll make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
Motion by Chad, a second by Dave to accept Emily's report. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
First reading of ordinance number 25-856, ordinance for the sale of municipal owned property to Bonneville Land and Cattle LLC.
Mayor and Council, I actually think we started having conversations on the sale of this property just over a year ago. It got delayed a little bit, but through negotiations with a potential buyer, kind of settled on this final agreement. Council did kind of authorize this. The one thing that's changed that originally we're looking to sell it for $17,000. What's in front of you tonight is consideration for sale at $10,000, and most of that was because we more or less took a 50-foot swath of land out with an easement that we need for utility upgrades that will take place in there. And so that's probably the one major change since the last time the council had discussion on it. But we have come to a purchase agreement with the proposed buyer. And as a requirement of the land the city owns that we would look to sell requires two readings of an ordinance. So staff would recommend approval of the first reading.
Motion to approve ordinance 25-856 for first reading.
I'll second.
Motion by Pat, second by Chad. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Motion carries. Resolution number 15877, resolution revising 2025 fee schedule.
Mayor and Council, we had a conversation about this at our last council meeting regarding setting a license fee for chickens and then setting a registration fee for cannabis. And so our conversation had the chicken license initial fee at $50 with renewal fee at $25, and then the cannabis regulation fee is mimics what's the maximum amount allowed by state law.
Motion to approve resolution 15877.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Tim to approve that resolution. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Setting council strategy planning session for July 22nd, 2025, 4 p.m.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, it's been a while since we had a conversation regarding strategic planning. Staff has spent some time kind of working on putting together kind of the final document. And so we should meet to kind of discuss that, make sure we're comfortable with what's being proposed, with the goal of obviously getting that towards conclusion. Obviously, we had some conversations tonight that will play into that, but so we're looking to schedule that for our second meeting in July, or before our second meeting in July.
I'll make a motion to set that meeting.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat, set the meeting for July 22nd at 4 p.m. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Request for variance on weekend noise hours for construction activity on Dale Street.
Mayor and Council, I apologize for this reaching your packet after the deadline, but I think given the forecast of the next 36 hours, it led the contractor to approach Corey, who's been our project manager for the city, with this request. It's not to say they're going to use every Saturday. Again, weather may dictate otherwise, but they're requesting a consideration for variance to weekend hours as well as the starting hours. They'll be mindful, and we've kind of underscored with them, we can't be running heavy equipment, be courteous, of where you're at, but they do feel this would allow them to at least keep the schedule, which right now runs through about mid-August. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Dave to approve. Any other discussion?
Just more point of notification for the public. Basically, what we're requesting is that the start time get moved up from 9 a.m. to 7 a.m. on Saturdays. So,
Call a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Minutes from committees, boards, and commissions. We have Hutchinson, City of Hutchinson Financial Report and Investment Report for May of 2025. Chief Gifferson, you have anything for us tonight?
Not tonight.
All right. Mike, you got anything for us?
Real quick, one in particular, I'd like to introduce our new city engineer, Brandon Braithwaite, is joining us here tonight. I know a few of you have had a chance to meet with other committee meetings, et cetera. But Brandon is joining us. He's a Wisconsin resident up until very recently, but joined us as of last Monday, so he's been with us about a week and a half at this point. So we have one man perhaps representing amongst council. Maybe we have added a second one at this point. So. But definitely want to welcome Brandon. He's been a great addition thus far. And with the budget process Matt's talked about, he's been fully participating in those and building the context meeting by meeting, day by day. So.
Tim, you got a puzzle look. All it is that we have another Packer fan in our mix.
Mark told me not to say anything, so I'm not saying anything.
Let's just go with the 5th.
Yeah, okay, sounds
So
good.
beyond that, real quick, again, storm, good that you mentioned the catch basins again, 2 to 3, 4 inches perhaps predicted over the next day and a half. So certainly a bit concerning. So we'll do what we can with it. Storm damage, as I mentioned earlier, we should have wrapped up generally today with all the resident requests. There is still related damage around, though, that will be going around and cleaning up, but we're in a pretty good spot with that. Again, the airport sustained a lot of the damage. We do expect that will more than meet our deductible. There will be a claim coming in that regard. And then beyond that, street projects are moving along as well as they can, considering, but generally I still expect them to finish early August, thereabouts.
I did notice out at the airport, the ASI jet did get their roof put back on already.
Oh, did they? Excellent.
Yeah, it was finished, looked like it was done today. They were still working a little bit on it, but the other hangars had some damage, so.
Mike, is it safe to say if somebody hasn't had their branches picked up unless maybe didn't call it in?
Yeah, that is very possible. I think word has generally gotten out, but as I mentioned earlier, it's still not too late. You could call in and we'll certainly make it a point to get around. But yeah, if you've just kind of left that out there and not notified us in some way, you know, the report problem, calling down, talking to Sonia, we wouldn't necessarily know otherwise. And we're not making a point to just canvassing the city at this point. So.
I think it was pretty well stated that it was gonna take till the 30th, I do believe, right? They were.
Yeah, we give it, but as Mike knows, they've gotten a good portion of town already. So.
Yeah. Anything else? No. All right, thank you. Let's see. Mark, you got anything else?
Nothing else tonight.
Chad, let's start with you.
Nothing else tonight?
Kimmy?
First of all, got a lot of great comments about the tree pickup. A lot of people didn't expect the city to do that, and they're very pleased with the community for being on that side and picking it up. And Creekside is a great place to be able to take it to, so there's a benefit to the community across the board there. Went to the VMF field with the new, and some of you were there for the new opening of the baseball field, or stands and everything. That's going to be a great amenity, and look forward to the tournaments this year. A lot going on in the community. I know the library is planning, and you have to check with them into dates and everything, and it's on here, but in July, I think they're planning some escape rooms, kind of a new thing. So check out the local library, and they're always doing something innovative over there. So that's what I have. Thank you.
All right, Dave?
We had RTCC meeting today, and of course transportation is the main focus. And I think they're looking to trying to get more volunteer drivers in the Hutchinson area, and they got some plans on doing that. But on some of the vehicles that are driven and that type of thing, I think we've got to get into some testing and whatnot for those certain vehicles that are being driven. But other than that, it looks positive, so absolutely. And I would express my sincere thanks for the flowers that I received.
Pat?
Nothing.
Nothing? Matt?
Just a quick reminder, offices are closed next Friday, July 4th, for the July 4th holiday. And then just another reminder that we do have an audit workshop before our next council meeting. That will be at 4:30 on July 8th, where we'll go through the audit report for 2024. That's it otherwise.
Alrighty, we did have an HRA meeting. Kind of heard Judy kind of give us the rundown on that. The only thing I got is April's stuff for medium house sale in Hutchinson for April is $338,800. And there was, let's see, inventory, there was 30 houses for sale in Hutchinson. And they had 26 new listings. So, did have a resource allocation meeting. Just talked about the projects that we got going on in town, the landing, the bank improvement on the river. If you guys haven't seen that, go down and look at it. It looks really nice. Talked about the project updates for Dale and Hassan, and got introduced to Brandon. He came to our first meeting. So besides that, I do have something I just wanted to read. I've been hearing a lot of incidents lately of residents and property owners getting very overly vocal with some of our city employees. In most cases, these city employees are not the people responsible for the issues people are upset about. I wanted to take a minute to remind Hutchinson residents and property owners that if they have an issue, it should be raised with the city administrator or the city council members. If you reach out with an issue, also think about any possible solution to the issue. Raising your voice or harassing day-to-day city employees may seem like a way to get a problem addressed, but it only causes low morale among staff. In this day and age of instant gratification, please try to be patient and bring your concerns either to the city administrator or mayor, city council. That's all I have tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to adjourn. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Will say nay.
You all.
Motion carries.